A lot of people who were Bernie Sanders supporters, just like I was, are now engaged in this collective freakout over the Trump administration, and they actually seem to believe that they would have been better off with Hillary Clinton in the White House. They think that if Hillary had won, at least they would have gotten some of what they wanted. And as I'm about to explain, that's actually not true at all. This belief that Sanders supporters were going to get something out of the Clinton administration, it's not true. And I've attempted to explain this numerous times in different ways, but people just don't seem to get it. The House of Representatives in the 2016 election was never in play. It was always going to stay under Republican control. And here's why. Members of the U.S. House of Representatives represent districts in each of the 50 states. These districts are based on population. Big states like California have a lot of congressional districts. Small states like Alaska, small in population that is, only one, or some small states have a few congressional districts. As I said, these districts are based on population. The lines are drawn to benefit the party that is in control of drawing the lines. Most state legislatures in the United States are controlled by the Republican Party. That is, they have Republican majorities in both of the state legislatures. These state legislatures are responsible for defining the districts, drawing the district lines. They do this based on Census Bureau reports, obviously, but they also look at election returns from previous elections. And using census reports and previous election returns, they draw the district lines. Now, in Republican states, such as Texas, where the Republicans control the state legislature, that legislature draws congressional districts so that there will be as many Republican districts as possible and as few Democratic districts as possible. The Republicans have the clear advantage in defining congressional districts. It has been a tactic over the years, and at this point it's perfectly legal and perfectly constitutional. It has been a strategy over the years that in Republican states they concentrate Democratic votes in as few districts as possible, and they draw other district lines based on past election returns so that they are sure to get as many Republican districts as possible. So this means that Republicans have a huge electoral advantage in the House of Representatives. Could this be overcome? Yes, theoretically it could, because when they design these congressional districts, they only look at past election returns to see how the different areas voted. What they don't know, the X factor, is the unknown vote. Unknown voters, people who don't usually vote. So in spite of the fact that Republicans draw the congressional districts in most states, a hugely popular candidate, one who really caught fire with the public, such as, for example, Bernie Sanders, could overcome that Republican advantage in a general election. It is very possible that had Bernie Sanders been nominated as the Democratic nominee, that a lot of people who hadn't voted before would have come out to vote in various congressional districts, and he could have actually carried the House of Representatives. But to get a ho-hum who gives a damn candidate running at the head of the Democratic Party like Hillary Clinton, and the enthusiasm is just way down. And so, had Hillary been elected president, the House of Representatives was absolutely going to stay Republican, and quite probably the Senate would have stayed Republican as well. Now, what would that mean? It would mean that Sanders supporters, as a matter of fact, and Hillary supporters would not have gotten anything that they wanted out of a Clinton administration, because Republicans would be in control of the House. That would mean no $12 an hour minimum wage, which she said she was for. It would mean no program for college affordability. It would mean no fixing of Obamacare, and Obamacare has tremendous problems. It is imploding. It has tremendous problems, and with Hillary in the White House and Republicans controlling the House, there would have been no possibility at all for fixing those problems. But Obamacare is in a huge mess. In a third of the counties in the United States, there is only one insurance company for Obamacare folks to enroll in. By 2018, it's very possible that there will be counties in the United States where there is no insurance company participating in Obamacare, and people will just be out of luck in those counties if they want to buy marketplace insurance plans. So these problems would not have been fixed. On top of that, the condition of the working class in the United States, specifically the white working class, has been degrading for a very long time. And by working class, and white working class in particular, I mean wage workers, people who get paid by the hour, and I also mean lower paid salaried workers. And their general condition has been degrading for a very long time. And the Democratic Party hasn't focused on it. The job growth that occurred during the Obama administration was poor quality job growth. Only about a fifth of those jobs were actually worth a damn. During the Obama years, 80% of the job growth, the creation of new jobs, consisted of low-wage, marginal benefit jobs, a lot of part-time work. The good-paying jobs with the good benefits, those just didn't get created. Only about a fifth of the jobs created were those. And also, there were the problems that the gross domestic product, which is the number by which the whole economy grows, never got and stayed above 3% for any length of time. And 3% is the number that has traditionally been considered a healthy growth in the economy. And in a country like the United States, you need the economy to be growing all the time because the population is growing all the time. So 3% growth in the GDP is what has been considered healthy. And the country never got there and stayed there under the Obama administration. As a matter of fact, in the fourth quarter of 2016, the GDP, gross domestic product, grew by only 1.9%. Now that's growth, it's positive, but it's nowhere near the kind of growth that is actually needed. Additionally, orders for durable goods actually decreased by 0.04% in the last quarter of 2016. And so while the Obama administration, and indeed the Democratic majority that had control of Congress for the first 2 years, do deserve a lot of credit for pulling the country back from the brink of Great Depression too, they do deserve a lot of credit for that, they never actually came forward with a coherent plan to generate good-paying jobs. The closest thing they came was the stimulus program, which did put a lot of people back to work and did get a lot of public works projects done, although the infrastructure is still a mess. So there were some good efforts. I do believe that Obamacare was designed in good faith and their intentions were good, but they still managed to screw it all up. And the proposals to raise the minimum wage, that is a good idea. I do think that it needs to go up. But you have to do more than just tinker around with health care and the minimum wage. You have to come up with some kind of coherent plan to generate good-paying jobs. And that was lacking during the Obama administration. As I said, 80% of the job growth during the Obama administration were low-paid, no-benefit jobs. And people in the international audience, those who may be listening to this in other countries other than the United States, need to understand that what's important to people in the United States doesn't really concern international affairs and international diplomacy and all that sort of thing. What Americans in general are concerned about are those kitchen table issues, the issues of being able to work for a living and pay their bills, and hopefully it used to be to achieve something called the American dream, but that is largely gone now. Home ownership and car ownership, and that is largely gone for a lot of people, and that's one reason that the elections have been riled in the United States. Now, I know that there are people who would probably say, well, Hillary would do what Bill did. She would work across the aisle. She would reach across the aisle and work with Republicans because they respect her. No, hell, they don't either. Republicans don't respect Hillary Clinton at all. And they would have pulled on her the same thing that they pulled on Obama and effectively blocked him from getting anything through Congress for the last 6 years, and they would have done the same thing with her. So what would have happened under a Hillary administration would have been this slow, steady decline in the American workforce. The condition of the American worker in general would have continued this long, slow decline, and problems would not have been solved at all. Now, there are some possibilities under Trump that something might get done on infrastructure, and some positive things might happen on trade. Those are a couple of positive things that could possibly be done. Under a Hillary Clinton administration, you wouldn't even have got that. So, for reasons I've just explained, I cannot jump on the bandwagon of hollering and screaming and yelling about Trump and being all mad about everything that he does, because a Clinton administration actually would have been worse in some ways. It would have been gridlock. Legislative priorities that Hillary would have supported would not have gotten through Congress. There would have been no $12 an hour minimum wage that everybody wanted. There would have been no college affordability. There would have been no universal health care. And there's still not going to be universal health care, it doesn't look like. But I don't buy the idea that a Clinton administration would be a hell of a lot better than what we actually got in the United States, because she wasn't going to get anything done, and there are things that do need to be done. Now, with one party in control of everything, there is a possibility that some things will at least get through Congress. Whether those will be good or bad, time will tell. We'll have to wait and see about that. But in a country where the labor force is the working class Americans, where their general economic condition is getting worse and worse and worse, to have an administration that wouldn't be able to do anything at all, like a Hillary Clinton would not have been able to do anything at all, that is probably the worst case scenario. Now, there are those who would probably say to me, well, at least that's better than everything going to hell all at once. Well, wait a minute. Everything is not going to hell all at once. There have been some very positive economic indicators lately. It isn't always great for regular Americans when the stock market does well, but the stock market has been doing extremely well lately, and there has been a lot of confidence and apparently a lot of optimism in the business community, and they do seem intent on spending. And so if you look at it economically, well, then things are not going to hell in a handbasket. And people are saying, you know, how can you sit there and talk about money and economic? Because that's what it usually comes down to. It usually comes down to how people are doing financially. And so those prospects are looking kind of good right now. You know, I think sometimes that people who get hung up strictly or mostly on social issues don't really understand things like the index of leading economic indicators, or the consumer price index, or the gross domestic product, or the national debt. I think maybe they really don't understand how those things impact daily lives. And so there you have it. A Hillary Clinton administration would have been at least 4 years of gridlock with nothing getting done in a country where things do need to be done. At least under the administration that got in, there are possibilities that some things will get through Congress, and that maybe some of those things will be beneficial. So do I think that the country would have been better off under Clinton than I do Trump? No, and I think I've given you a pretty good discussion of why I don't think that. I think if it had to be one of the two, we're probably better off with what we got. Thanks, and have a good day.